Let's get some analysis on this. Mehrdad Khonsari is a former Iranian diplomat, and he joins us now from London. Always good to have you on the show, Mr. Ambassador. So several months ago, there was a lukewarm desire from both sides to start talks again. But how difficult is it going to be now to restart and build some sort of momentum?
Well, as you said, some momentum has been lost because of the delay, because of the gap, the 5-month gap between the talks. And of course, this period has been filled with a great deal of posturing from both sides, coming up with maximalist positions and demanding this, that, and the other, whereas they know that for anything to move forward, serious compromises need to be made. The Iranians try to convey this image that they have endured maximum pressure and that they can continue doing that indefinitely, so they are not pressured by the Americans. And but of course, the reality is that the Iranian economy is suffering. The government is facing public protests on a daily basis for the most basic requirements of the ordinary citizens, which is water, drinking water, and electricity. So, this is how bad the situation has gotten, and the Raisi government needs to move forward. And at the same time, if these things don't move forward, the consequences for the West and for the Americans, especially, goes from, as one analyst says, from unattractive to ugly, because nobody wants military engagement or confrontations of that nature at the same time. So it's going to be a very hard slug, and progress is going to be slow. But the comfort that everyone can take is the fact that nobody wants conflict and nobody wants for negotiations to come to a complete standstill.
You say that serious compromises needed to be made. I get that. Here's what I want to ask you. The talks are with the original signatories of the JCPOA, but how much weight are the desires of other regional countries going to have now? Israel, perhaps Saudi Arabia?
Well, obviously, Israel, Saudi Arabia have been acting behind the scenes. Most of the Gulf countries, they had initially demanded a seat at the negotiating table, saying that the consequences of the Iranian nuclear program first and foremost confront us, so we should also have a seat. But that has not happened. But nevertheless, the lobbying on the part of the Israelis and the Saudis has been quite strong. It has always been strong, but now the Israelis have changed tactics, and instead of working overtly against any American, you might say, agreement with Iran, they just want to make sure that the agreement is solid enough to contain, portions that satisfy their requirements. And that's why the Americans have said that they would only remove all sanctions if discussions go beyond just the nuclear issue and include matters relating to the region as well as Iran's missile programs, for which the Iranian government shows no desire in wanting to sort of get involved. So the lobbying and the pressure from the regional states is quite strong, but it has its limits in terms of how much of an impact it can make, at any rate, in the shorter term.
Okay. You briefly touched upon it, but let me ask you, I mean, if the talks break down, if we don't get anything, where does it leave us?
Well, if the talks, I don't believe that the talks will break down. I believe that we are heading towards some sort of an interim, possibly an interim agreement in order to keep matters going. You have to bear in mind that, the American policy at this time wants reduced oil prices, global oil prices. So the Americans might be willing to allow Iran to sell more of its oil than it would otherwise wish, in order to keep the Raisi government interested enough in wanting to go. But the alternatives are that, I mean, the Israelis have been quite blunt about the fact that they do have a plan B, and the Israeli Knesset has allocated $1.5 billion for military contingency plans to be taken against Iran strikes against Iran if the talks fail and if Iran gets past that point of no return in the development of its nuclear program, and if it escalates and continues escalating its program. So this is the danger. But the point is that at the end of the day, neither the Israelis nor the Americans nor the Iranians have any real stomach for wanting to face a consequence of that nature. And for that reason, I believe that if nothing serious comes of, at least they will try and work towards some kind of an interim agreement to keep matters flowing.
All right, those talks start on Monday. Ambassador Khonsari, always a pleasure hearing your thoughts. Thank you.